My name is Jessica Bell. For this assignment, I completed a client project for a local librarian. This information request was to find resources focusing on the topic of mentoring at-risk youth at the library. My client for this project is named Sadie. She is a librarian at the local public library and manages all of the e-library resources like ebooks, online databases, and rentable technology like hotspots. In addition to overseeing the e-library services, Sadie also works with the Young Adult Department and serves as the lead staff for the teen space at the local community center. As the former coordinator of the Workforce and Innovation Opportunity Act program at the library, Sadie became passionate about working with at-risk youth. This has carried over into the mentoring programs she is planning to develop. This is where the reference search begins. After conducting a reference interview with Sadie, we were able to establish the purpose of the research questions, and the deliverables. As a librarian assisting the severely underfunded young adult department, one of Sadie's most important tasks is to secure funding and resources that will provide support for her programs. With an already established network of community partners willing to provide in-kind services to help, Sadie must shift her focus to applying for grants to fund aspects of her programs like supplies and staff time. Currently, she is working to further develop the mentoring program that is in place in the young adult department. To facilitate her grant application process, Sadie would like to have a list of works to reference to help bolster her case for the importance of implementing such programming. In order to find resources to help Sadie argue for funding, it was necessary to identify the research questions that would direct the search process. During the reference interview, the broad research question it established was, as a third place, why should the library offer mentoring as a service? With more narrow concerns of what are the benefits for at-risk youth who actively participate in mentoring programs, and what are the benefits for those that act as mentors for at-risk youth? These questions were used to establish the search strategy to retrieve the results. Before the search could begin, it was necessary to identify what Sadie expected from me and the references produced for her. This was discussed during the reference interview to allow both of us to be in agreement with what could realistically be achieved. Sadie requested a minimum of 8 articles, with a deadline for first presentation of findings set for October 29, 2018. Sadie was asked to provide feedback, at least 1 to 2 sentences per reference, on the material within 2 weeks of receipt to allow enough time for her to assess the content and for me to revise the search and produce different results if needed. In the event that a second search was needed, a deadline to provide the revised list was set for November 12th. However, it was determined that a second set of references was not necessary, as the first proved to be sufficient. To begin, we needed to determine the criteria for relevant material. The references needed to be peer-reviewed, journal articles published between 2000 and 2018. Based on the information on hand, I knew the databases needed to cover broad topics of education, psychology, and sociology, so ProQuest Dialogue was selected for its coverage of ERIC, PsycInfo, and Social SciSearch. I also utilized Web of Science for citation searching, and briefly utilized Google Scholar. Next, I listed the major concepts and terms identified during the reference interview. Some of these included young adults, mentors, at-risk youth, libraries, and after-school programs. After I had my list of terms, I determined which, if any, could be combined or truncated, and how I might be able to use other search tools to run queries. Next, I navigated to ProQuest Dialogue, selected the database I wanted to search, and opened the thesaurus to look up the controlled vocabulary for my terms. Only the ERIC and PsycInfo thesauri were available, but I still wanted to proceed with including Social SciSearch. I also knew that I needed to filter my results by date and source type. In the end, I ended up incorporating queries utilizing controlled vocabulary, keywords, citation chaining, and tools like truncation and combination through Boolean operators. I did have to revise my searches several times to obtain enough relevant results to present to Sadie. The initial presentation of references given to Sadie included 15 articles. To facilitate her review process, I divided the results into sections based on the research questions they could help to answer, and provided her with the abstracts for each article. After reviewing the references, Sadie determined that 10 of the 15 met her information need. Starting with a clear understanding of what Sadie needed, as well as the expectations she had of me, facilitated the search process. I was able to provide a list to Sadie for review with 15 references instead of the agreed upon 8. I felt this would be helpful to present her with more options in the event that some of them did not quite meet her needs. The main challenge faced during this search process was the initial query for articles that would support her argument that libraries should offer mentoring services. After consulting with Sadie about how to proceed, we determined that articles written about the benefits of mentoring youth in general would suffice. Once this was established, I had no problem finding references on the topic for Sadie. Despite my initial concerns with the project, I ended up really enjoying the work and sharing my knowledge with my client. In addition to providing her with the reference list, I was able to spend some time explaining techniques to allow her to conduct further research on her own. Thank you for taking the time to view my presentation. I look forward to any feedback you have and also to watching your presentations.